Living Consciously presents Soul-Versations, conversation which touches your soul.
Welcome, Nitin, to this conversation, which we call Soul-Versations, conversations which touches your soul. And you are very much heartily welcome to this session today, this conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, to give a small introduction to listeners about you, Nitin is a renowned expert in logotherapy, currently lives in Saudi Arabia. He's a certified logotherapist from the Viktor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy in Dublin and an accredited member of Logotherapy Association in Vienna. Involved in the field since 2017, Nitin conducts sessions worldwide, sharing the transformative principle of logotherapy. He has had the opportunity to coach several individuals from world, including business owners, creative artists, educators, and even more other coaches who are seeking a solid understanding of their purpose in life. You can also go to Nitin's channel, which is Logotherapist Nitin Kalra. I will be putting that link in our description. So thanks again, Nitin, for joining us today.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's go towards our first question today, which is many of us have felt lost or struggled to find purpose in life. How does logotherapy addresses these common human experiences, and how does it differ from traditional therapy approaches?
Okay. So I will start by giving a little background about logotherapy itself. So the word logotherapy is also it's derived from the Greek word logos, which basically means meaning. So we've all seen logos around the world. Each company, each business, sometimes even individuals have their own logos. So logos is nothing but meaning. And logotherapy is also referred to worldwide as the meaning therapy. And this school of thought is a recognized school of psychology. It's one of the three recognized schools of psychology that we follow as psychologists. People around the world actually follow those. Now, this was formed way back in the 1930s when you had a certain uh, individual by the name of Viktor Frankl, who started developing concepts around meaning therapy and logotherapy in the world. To give you a background of where he came from, so the father of modern psychology, as we all know, is Sigmund Freud. And Sigmund Freud basically said that anything and everything people do revolves around the whole concept of seeking pleasure. And if there is pleasure in anything that we are doing in our lives, if we can see pleasure at the end of the day, we will be able to sail through the struggle of life. While there is a much deeper meaning to what we are talking, but in a nutshell, you can say the Freudian school of philosophy, of psychology, kind of focused on the idea of seeking pleasure. Now, a student of Sigmund Freud was Alfred Adler. And Alfred Adler is the founder of the behavioral school of psychology. And he kind of said that it was not pleasure that human beings was after. What they were after was the whole idea of seeking power. So anything that will give you power, you as a human being are willing to take that task. It can make you powerful in any form, whether political power or financial power or social power, relationships power, or anything of that sort. So if you are able to see power at the end of the struggle that you are going through, your mind can be coached or can be accustomed or attuned to the whole idea of managing that struggle in itself. Now, a student of Alfred Adler was Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl started as a behavioral therapist, and he would practice very often in Germany, where he would also tell people about the whole idea of seeking power. But as he was practicing, he noticed that it was not pleasure, it was not power that people were after. What the human mind was after was to understand just one question: why is this thing happening to me? So I'll explain to you in a very simple language. If anybody, any human being kind of goes through a difficult situation in life, with me personally, in 2006, I went through a depression because of my work. Okay. And at that point of time, I did not, immediate reaction was not about saying that, oh, if I've lost my job, it's all right. Now I can seek pleasure in doing different things in life, or I can seek a better job and become more powerful, maybe more financially powerful, or in my career become more powerful. I did not think about that. Why I got into a depression? Because I only wanted answer to one question: why did this happen to me? Why was I chosen to go through this? Why was I the one who was removed from the job? What did I do wrong that I was chosen to leave my job, or I was asked to leave my job? Now, as a human being, whenever there is a challenge that is thrown at us, we ask the question, why? Why is this thing happening? We don't say at that time, that, okay, something good will come out of it. Ideally, that is how you are supposed to think. Now that, after so many years of being in this profession, and studying about so many self-help books in psychology and so on and so forth, now, whatever happens, I always look at the positive side. Like, people keep telling me that you are, too optimistic in life, you're too positive in life. And but that has come out of experience, that has come out of a certain level of maturity. Well, back in 2006, when I was a young boy in his 20s, losing a job at that point of time was like the biggest thing that could ever happen. And the first response always was, why did this happen? Right? So Viktor Frankl focused on the whole element of why. And he said it is not pleasure or power that people are asking the question for. They always ask, why did this thing happen to me? They're always looking for that answer, the meaning of why did this happen to me? Right? So he started focusing on the meaning therapy part of it. And he said, let us not go to the power and the pleasure that can come afterwards, after the incident has taken place, but let's go to the root cause of it. Why did this happen in the first place? So he created a school of thought called the meaning therapy, and he started writing about it, started doing work, and eventually it was named logotherapy, because probably that was more fancier to say. But he created this concept. And then the unfortunate incident of the Second World War happened, where, being a Jew, Viktor Frankl was also captured and was also sent through a concentration camp, and he went through 2.5 years of the Holocaust and survived in that situation. And if you read his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which is technically the Bible of logotherapy, and that's the book that attracted me so much, that in 2018, when I personally went through this existential crisis, and this question of existence, um, I read this book, and I got so inspired that I read that book 3 times in one week, and just to understand deeply in terms of what he meant. And in that book, he talks about how he's gone about living logotherapy, technically while he was in the concentration camps, and how logotherapy helped him to survive. And it's a beautiful message of how he actually practiced whatever he was preaching himself, in an unfortunate situation as the Holocaust, but he did manage to survive. I'm not saying that 100% logotherapy was the reason why he was able to survive, but it played a major role in his survival in that sense. So what he talks about is very simple, that you should know the meaning of your life. You should know the purpose of your life. If you have a clear answer, if you have a clear goal, if you have a clear vision in terms of why are you even waking up in the morning, then life becomes much easier for you to live. No matter what challenges the universe will throw at us during the day, if I know what I want to do, what I want to achieve, if my goal, if my meaning is set, then I will be able to happily go through that. And that's a very powerful message that comes across in logotherapy. And I've tried in my own capacity to implement it in my life. I've benefited a lot out of it, and now I help other people to benefit out of it. I've got hundreds of clients that I have coached who've actually implemented these strategies in their life, and they have been able to see successful, positive results towards their life. So it's an incredible science. It's an open-ended science, as Frankl writes in almost every book of his. He wrote about 39 books in his career. I've read about 18 or 19 of them so far. and my journey still continues because every book is so intriguing. But as he writes in practically every book of his, that it's an open-ended science. As human mind will evolve, logotherapy will evolve. It cannot have a definitive structure of putting it in a box and saying this is what logotherapy is all about. But it's an evolving science. It takes inspiration from human beings around the world, and that is so fascinating to see as a logotherapist myself when we preach this to people.
Yeah. And the second part of it was like how does it different like from other traditional approaches?
So, like I mentioned, if you look at the Freudian school that focuses on
Mm,
pleasure, the Adlerian school focuses on power, whereas we focus on the meaning, which is why. So we focus on the meaning part of something that happens in your life. So again, as an example, God forbid, if any human being goes through an accident, the instant thought in his mind is not about, okay, now that the accident has happened, let me just relax in the hospital or in the house, take some vacation, relax and chill and experience pleasure. You don't think like that. You don't say, okay, now that I have experienced this accident, let me just consume a lot of medicines and eat good food and become more powerful. You don't think like that. The first thing that comes to your mind is, why did this happen to me? Whether it was my fault, somebody else's fault, whatever. The first natural question is why. So we try to address the why rather than saying, let's think about power, rather than saying, let's think about pleasure. Yes, we're not saying now that you're in an accident, okay, don't think about it. Yes, you have to think about it. You have to see ways and means of how you come out of it. But if you know the reason of why things happened to you, or what was the purpose, or what was the meaning of what happened to you, you are in a better position mentally in order to go through that challenge. And that is why it differs from the other two schools of psychology.
okay. Uh, um, I remember last time when we met, you were on 16 books. This time it is 18 or 19.
Yeah, it's about 19th. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you've kept a count. I generally try not to keep a count, but yes, my intention is to read all 39 books if I
Mm,
can.
wow, wow, beautiful. So let's go towards the next question, which is you have already talked about Viktor Frankl and how he talks about finding meaning in life. The first book is like that. So the question is, can we break down what this actually means? How does logotherapy focuses on meaning, helping with modern struggles like anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed, and
Yes.
problems like these?
Yes. So interestingly, a lot of what is being said in logotherapy, or what is being taught in logotherapy, can be easily applied in daily life. The application of it is very, very simple. There are a few fundamental principles of logotherapy that is followed. So number one, we focus on creativity. Okay, in order to solve everyday problems, sometimes, you know just using the right side of the brain, which is the creative side of the brain, can bring about so much of peace and harmony in our lives. I'll give you this very simple example. I had a client who was based in Dubai, and she was a restaurateur. And she came for one of my sessions, one of the group sessions that I do. And she sat through the introduction session, and later on called me for a personal session. And for about 45 minutes or so, she kept talking about how wonderful her life was. She had a great life, successful career, loving husband, great kids, great in-laws, had her own house in Dubai, running 6 different restaurants. Everything was fantastic. Like, she had a fairy tale life, so to say. Okay. And at the end of this whole explanation of how wonderful her life is, she just simply said, but something is missing from my life. I'm not happy. I'm not able to find happiness. And after she went through coachings with me, and during the program, we went back into time in terms of understanding what she does, for herself in the day. So one of the first practices I told her to do was to write down her entire itinerary from morning till night. What does she do? So she wrote down that I wake up at 5 o'clock, I sleep at 11 in the night, and this is my entire day schedule. And I only asked her one question after that, that what is it that you do for yourself in this day? And she struggled to answer that question. She said, what do you mean by that? I said, what is it that you do that gives you joy? So she says, I spend time with my kids. I said, that's parenting. She said, I spend time with my business, my work. I love my work. I said, that's your profession. Then she said, I love spending time with my friends, and socializing. And so I said, exactly, that's socializing. And then she said, I love spending time with my in-laws. They're really good with me and whatever. So I like cooking for them. I like taking care of them. I said, that's your responsibility, right? That's companion. That's your responsibility. Then she said, I like spending time with my husband. I said, that's companionship. So she just, at the end of it, just asked me clearly, what are you asking? I said, what is it that you do for your own self? Rather than doing things for others, what is it that you do for your own self? And she says, there's nothing that I do for my own self as such. And when we went deeper into the conversation, we realized that before she got married almost 20 years ago, she was a painter, she was an artist. But she left it because she moved to Dubai, came into the new country, got married, had her first child in the first year, got busy with motherhood. So everything else took a backseat. So in the subsequent session, I actually brought her a paintbrush and a canvas, and I said, paint. And in about an hour's time, she came up with a beautiful painting, and she had tears in her eyes, and she says, I've never been so happy in the last 20 years, and this is something that suddenly brought the joy. Now, this was, I think, session 3 or 4 with her. And after that, I stopped the program with her. I said, I don't want you found what you were looking for. So now she regularly paints. She finds time. Whenever she finishes a painting, she clicks a picture, sends it to me, puts it up in her restaurant, and she kind of experiences that joy because she's using the right side of her brain. Whole day, what we do as humans is we use the left side of our brain, right? We keep talking about logic all the time. Great thing to do, but that's not all that we require in our life. God has given us 2 sides of the brain, left and right. We're supposed to use both. Why have we forgotten to use the right side of our brain? So in one of the key principles in logotherapy is to make use of creativity in our life. And that is essential if you want to maintain harmony and balance in your life. I have several examples of clients who've used this as a segment. One interesting example I definitely would want to share, and I love sharing this, is I was coaching a client who's a big time musician based in India. I wouldn't name him, but he came to me and he was going through a same story. Had a great successful career, everything was great, money was great, great family, great life, everything was fine, but he was not happy. Okay. And then when I asked him, what does he do? Same process. What does he do for himself? And he says, I just take the guitar and I start playing. That gives me joy. I said, but what is it that you do outside of your work? Music is great for people like me who are just listeners. It's great. But for people like you for whom it is a profession, you cannot be saying that music is something that gives me creative joy or creative juice. I asked him another question. I said, tell me honestly, how much of the music you make you're actually satisfied with? And you'll be surprised to hear the answer. He said 95% of what I make is rubbish. Only 5% gives me actual joy, because 95% is music he makes for others. A producer says, there is no time, finish this. Some jingle, ad film jingle is happening, finish it fast, whatever. So he just does mechanical work. And where he found his joy? He found his joy in baking. His son would love the cakes that he would bake for him. And he says, my biggest joy or my biggest stress buster is when I make cakes for my son, for my children. And that is where he found his creative side. Imagine for a musician finding a creative side in cooking. Completely opposite of it. So each one of us should have that creative side, which is something which is very, very important. And it has got a major link, because if you look at it, these hobbies or these creative activities that we do help us eventually when we retire from our work life. And I have seen this because it's happening in my house as well. My parents both are now in their 70s and they're retired. They never nurtured any hobbies. Okay, I have seen this with many friends. I mean, the eldest client I have coached is a 64-year-old gentleman who was struggling for 4 years after he retired. And on my advice and suggestion, he developed hobbies and enjoys life because he's found something to do, something that will give him joy and happiness. So developing a hobby is extremely important. It is something that I tell all my clients, whether they are in their 20s or whether they are in their 60s. More so people like me, my age, mid 40s, going through midlife crisis, most of us, for us, this is extremely important. We need to have a creative side. So that's the first foundation of logotherapy, which helps people in actual action. The second is living in the moment, as we call it. You know, it's important thing is to live in the now, in the present. We live in the past, we think about the future, but what we do is, where do we live today? One of my most favorite quotes that I've read is from a book of Dale Carnegie, where he says that, today is the tomorrow we were worried about yesterday. And it is so beautiful, because today is the tomorrow we were worried about yesterday, right? And we forget about today itself, because today we are worrying about tomorrow. So if we keep worrying, when are we going to live? So the whole idea is, what do you do right now is what matters at the end of the day. The choices that we make in our life, as Frankl says, that the only true freedom we enjoy as human beings is the freedom to choose what we do with our lives. And that is something that's happening right now as we speak. If we don't do this now, if we don't live now, we won't be able to survive tomorrow, because tomorrow again we are thinking about tomorrow, and that tomorrow never, it's like a hedonic cycle. It's like a hedonic treadmill that never stops, right? So whatever it is, yes, I don't tell my clients, don't plan for tomorrow. Okay, I always tell them, you need to keep an eye on tomorrow. You need to plan for the rainy day. You have to kind of do those things that our parents have taught us, that save and build a future. Yes, that's important, but don't do it at the cost of your present moment. Because if you are here, only then you will be able to make the right choices to be able to secure your future. Otherwise, you will not be able to secure your future. So it's very important. And that's why, one of the things I tell all my clients to do, never say anything that I will do this from tomorrow. Make it a habit to say, I will do this today. Even if it is midnight, even if it is like 11:55 in the night, and there is some task you want to do, and you are telling yourself, I will do this tomorrow. Don't say tomorrow. Don't use the word tomorrow. Just say, I will do it today. Right? Just say, I will do it today, because it's also linked back to your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind, very conveniently throws things for tomorrow at the back of the mind. It prioritizes what you want to do today. And that is something that's extremely critical. So living in the moment is, again, very, very important. And I can explain this very beautifully with an example of a client of mine. He came to me with anger management issues. And, one day he was going with his family for a vacation. And he went to a particular country, enjoyed 4 days in the city, came back to the airport with his family. He was supposed to travel to another country from there, okay, for another 4 days. And when they arrived at the airport, this guy is told that you cannot travel to this other destination because you don't have a valid visa. He was under the impression that he would get a visa on arrival. But he was told that because you're not traveling from your home country, you're traveling from a foreign country to that country, you need a prerequisite visa. You need to get a visa beforehand. Now you can imagine a situation like this with a person who has anger management issues. What would he have done? He would have blasted every single person on that airport and made life miserable for everyone. Instead, this gentleman politely listens to the lady at the counter and asks her, is there any way you can help us? And she says, no, unfortunately not. You can go back, apply for a visa. It takes 24 hours. Come back tomorrow and then you can travel. He went back. He told his family this is the issue. And his family kind of said, In fact, his family got upset that, oh, so our vacation is spoiled. So now we go back home and whatever. Instead, what he did was he planned something better. He planned a trip to the rural side of that country, okay, immediately on the spot. And they went and spent the next 4 days at the rural side of this country and thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, when he came back, he attended one of my group sessions and he narrated this story and he thanked me for the coaching that I provided to him, because he applied the rule of living in the moment, right? And he said, I instantly thought of you, and I said, you keep telling me live in the moment, live in the present, because his anger was linked to his past. Whatever was happening in the past, his anger was linked to that. So the moment he started living in the present moment, he realized that it's not something that I can do, right? It's not something that's in my control. It's not something that is in the other person's control also. If I don't have a visa, rules are rules. Nobody has made the rules, right? I mean, neither of them had made the rules. So he politely went back and he said, there's a special thank you from his children and his wife, because of what he experienced in the coaching programs in logotherapy, and because he was able to apply it, their holiday was also saved. Otherwise, he would have blasted everybody. Everyone would have got annoyed and angry, and the whole vacation would have got spoiled. So it's a beautiful example, and I'm really proud of him that he was able to implement this in his life of whatever it is learned. So learning is great, but if you don't implement it, it's of no use to you. And the third element that we teach people is experiential living, where we talk about experiencing different things in life, sometimes going out of your comfort zone and experiencing things, because that's a way of how you will learn more, how you will grow more, how you will realize your own power. Sometimes we are so stuck in our head that, oh, this is not for me, I can't do this, right? But if you go out there and you kind of start pushing yourself, push your limits, so to say, right? Only then you will be able to experience life totally and live life totally. So these are the three key pillars in terms of how we bring logotherapy into action, focusing on creativity, the power of living right now, and the power of experiencing things, experiencing new things in life and breaking your limits and going forward. And I have applied these principles to most of my clients, and they've done wonders to most of my clients that I have experienced. And these are all stories that my clients have told me. So, it gives me joy that whatever little knowledge I share with them, if they're able to implement and it's bringing about a difference in their lives, I'm happy to play that small role, and I'm grateful that I've been chosen to play that small role in their lives.
So what I could like, I just want to remember these three things. First is be creative. Second is, uh, uh, I remember third now, right? Which is going out of your limits. And second was
Yes.
live in present, right?
Live in the
And
moment. Yes.
yes,
Be
so
present.
I did a recent course on 9 principles of shamanism, and I'm just amazed how much it resonates with shamanism. They also
Yes.
say that now is the moment of power, and all
Yes.
power is within you. So basically, they are
Yes.
constantly telling you to challenge your own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, if you see, one of the common things that we also talk about in logotherapy, and something that I always tell my clients on the very first session, that I don't have the answers to your problems. I may be an expert in a certain field, but I don't have the answers to your problems, because we believe that all the answers, the solutions to your problems are within yourself. Yeah. So 90% of my clients start their issues with their jobs. Okay? And I tell them the first thing that, you know what, if your job is giving you so much of pain, what is it that you're supposed to do? Leave it. You know the answer, leave it. But can you do it? Is the question. Now, if you are not able to leave it for whatever reasons, right, then start enjoying it. Live in the moment and start enjoying it, really. Right? Apply the principle of living in the moment. You've made a choice. I remember this. I was coaching a client, I think a couple of years back, and she's a very prominent banker. Okay, and at a senior level. She's a vice president in a multinational bank. And suddenly, after 18 years, feeling in her mind, and she thought that she's basically wasted 18 years of her life in banking. And uh, she started blaming her father because her father was the one who pushed her into banking. Okay, so after 18 years, something moved inside her and told her that, and she's also an artist. She's also a painter. So she wants to pursue painting as her career, as a profession, which she wanted to do for a very long time. So inside her, something moved, and she decided to quit her job and take up painting. But what she did, I mean, it's a great thing. You've listened to yourself and you've decided to move on in your career. But what she did was she was carrying this negativity in her mind against her father, against 18 years of her banking career. And to me, that was painful, because I know she was herself going through that pain, and that's why she came to me for coaching, because she still felt that she just wasted 18 years of her life. When we went through the whole coaching program, she discovered, I mean, questions like, when I asked her these questions like, okay, do you really feel that you wasted 18 years of your life? What has banking given you? What did your career of 18 years give you? She then told me phenomenal stories of how she was able to influence so many people positively, how she helped so many of her juniors grow in their careers, how she was able to guide people, in the correct fashion when it came to banking and finance and so on and so forth. She told me so many happy stories about customers who were so happy with her. She told me stories about the awards and the recognition she got internally. Okay, and I even told her, I said, the fact that you joined this bank as a customer service executive and became the vice president of the bank, doesn't it show that you actually made progress in your career? You made a growth. It's not that you were stuck in that executive position, right? You became the vice president. More importantly, you don't realize that position brought a lot of power with it, and you used that power to help other people, which is what she told me the stories about, right? More importantly, she actually met her husband in the bank, and they got married, and now they have a wonderful family. When she actually sat down and started writing all these things down, right? That's when she realized that yes, banking was not bad. It was something that really gave her a lot of growth, financial growth, stability, her family life, helped her with her relationships, helped her to build a friend circle. She became a mentor to so many people by default without knowing. And that is something, when she started writing down, in a way she was expressing that gratitude to the universe for what she had achieved. And that's when she realized her mistake, and she says, no, this is not, I didn't waste my life. I actually learned a lot from it. And yes, now that I have moved away from it, she learned a lesson that she should not be talking negative about those things, because ultimately it was her choice to take up that job. Yes, her father pushed her, but she agreed to agree with her father. So she cannot say that my father is 100% to be blamed. She also needs to take the blame equally, if she wants to talk about it. When she realized this, that's when she kind of had this realization, and she says, she apologized to her father as well. She kind of went back and apologized to her husband about her behavior of late and how negatively she was thinking, only because she started moment and she realized that yes, there was a larger reason and a purpose and a meaning why she did those 18 years in that bank. And the biggest purpose that she mentioned was the fact that maybe she was supposed to meet her husband, maybe she was supposed to have a financial career, a financial stability in her career, and that is the reason why she was there. So there was a purpose, there was a reason why she was there, right? Maybe that reason is now complete, and that's why the universe pulled her out and said, okay, now leave that and come and do something else that gives you joy and happiness. And I asked her even one more question. I said, practically speaking, if you were not financially stable, if you were still having loans and liabilities and responsibilities, etc., would you have left your job and picked up painting as a profession or as a passion? And she said no. And that is so true, because she was stable in one part of her life, she could now focus on the other part of her life. As we call it in logotherapy, there is a term called momentary meanings. A lot of people will ask this question, maybe you have it in your list as well, then what is the ultimate purpose of life? So if I have my purpose known, is that like, okay, once I discover that purpose, is it like, okay, now deja vu, I know my purpose, now my life is set? No. Our purpose will keep changing in every phase of our life. We call it momentary meaning. It's the moment, it's the meaning of the moment. So for kids, when we are kids, you can recall when we were children, 4-year, 5-year-old, what was our moment? It was just playtime, having a good time, having a good meal, having a chocolate, having this, having that. That's it. When we went to school, our moments changed, our meanings changed. We came to college, our meanings changed, right? I mean, I give this classic example to people that when I met my wife, she was my girlfriend for 2.5 years. My meaning with her was very different. My feelings with her were very different. My interaction with her was very different. I was full of joy every time I wanted to go and meet her. Then we got married. Okay. And then every day staying together, then you suddenly start reaching a phase where you want to start getting your own space. Right? Now, that does not mean that your love for the person has reduced. It's just that in that moment, sometimes you just have to give space in your relationship. Right? And that is what logotherapy teaches you and tells you in practicality, that you need to basically live in the moment, live in the present, try to understand what more can you do, become mentally strong. Okay? And momentary meanings are, it's like a necklace. Our life is like a necklace of multiple meanings, which have come together to make who we are. For all of us right now, our meaning is to take care of our family, our children, give them a good life, etc. But imagine dot at the age of 60, a day comes and you're told now your meaning of life is over. And then suddenly the next day morning, you don't know what is your meaning now, right? Does that mean your life is over? No, it is not. Then you need to find a new meaning. You need to find a new purpose in life. And that is what is the beauty of logotherapy. Meaning is something that you will never get out of life. There is nothing called ultimate meaning. Okay? We don't know. We are human beings. We are too small to understand what is the larger meaning of life. Right? But it's just a stepping stone. Every day is a discovery of a new meaning for ourselves. And we should be open in terms of accepting what lives bring to us. And if life brings to us a challenge, we need to know how to accept it. If life brings us joy, we need to accept it with equal grace and dignity and say, thank you very much for that opportunity. Anything that life throws at us has a reason, has a meaning. Nothing in life is meaningless. We may know the meaning today, or we may not know it today. We may know it after a few days, a few months, few years, or maybe we may never be able to know why that thing happened with us. But there is always a reason. And that is why the beauty of logotherapy is also that it has a spiritual side connected to it. Right? So you asked me a question, how different it is from the two schools of psychologies. It is different because we also give importance to spirituality in our teachings, in our practice. We understand that every human has a spiritual side. Every human is connected spiritually. And that is something which is extremely important for us. So if we keep that in mind, then we basically are able to achieve a lot of things in our lives. If we keep an open mind, saying anything that comes to us, is there to teach us something. So with an open arm, accept it, and you'll be able to see miracles happening.
When you said meaning of our life keeps changing, that this line came to me, like seeking never stops, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you're
Absolutely.
constantly seeking, and there is no point where you will just stop your seeking. So
absolutely, you may realize it earlier, or you may not realize it. Yeah. There is no human being on this planet who can, at the last day of his life, very comfortably sit down and say, this was the reason why I was here.
Yeah.
None of us. We are too small individuals. We are too small, too insignificant in this world to be able to question the larger purpose and the meaning why we are here.
Yes.
And it's a much deeper conversation to actually have. And that's why I tell people that, a lot of people tell me to define my own self, and I tell people that I am an insignificant. I'm an individual who's insignificant to the world, but significant to my own self.
Yeah.
So if I am able to kind of imagine my own importance to my own self, I may be able to make a significant impact in the world. But to the world, if I die today, nobody cares. The world is still going to function the way it is. So, in our minds, we live in this huge jungle of problems, and we think, oh, the world will not function without us. And I sometimes laugh at my clients when they narrate these incidences to me, and they tell me about, oh, how life will stop without them and whatever. And I just laugh at them. I laugh not to insult them or anything. I laugh because I just feel sorry for them. I try to easen them up to say that, what you're thinking is absolutely not true. There's a very interesting thing I read about in Japan. And Japan, there is a place where they actually uh, conduct this activity for you, where you are put in a coffin for 12 hours, 8 hours or 12 hours, something like that. And it's an actual coffin. Okay, they just have given it one small hole so that you can breathe. The oxygen keeps coming in. Otherwise, the whole experience is that of being inside a coffin. And there is studies they do around on your mind, and which says that the first 1 hour you are the most anxious. You're the most, like uncomfortable inside that coffin, because you're like just desperately wanting to get out of it. By hour two, by the third hour, by the fourth hour, your level of anxiety starts going down, and you suddenly start having these realizations and these thoughts in your mind that the world is still functioning without me. Even though I'm inside this coffin, outside the world is just as normal as it could be, right? So what's the fuss about? And then it gets deeper, because then the person starts realizing his own limitations. He starts questioning his own self. And by the time he comes out of that 8 or 9 or 10 hours of being inside the coffin, I mean, people have experienced transformation, because they suddenly feel that I give so much importance to this world outside me, but the real happiness or the joy is within me. And I forget to look at that. So you remember I told you the example of the lady, the restaurateur, and when I asked her, what is it that you do for yourself? And she had no answer. She does everything for everyone else from morning till night, but nothing for her own self. So, in my corporate seminars, when I often do them, the theme of my corporate seminar is be selfish. And HR people don't like it. They always tell me, please change the topic. And I'm like, you either let me do this or I'm not doing your session, because it makes no sense for me. But when they actually understand the meaning of being selfish, that's when they say, yes, what you're saying actually will help us grow our organization. Because if I am not completely my own self, if I don't know my own self, I cannot contribute effectively or positively to somebody else's life. Right? As they say in an airplane, in case of an emergency, wear your oxygen mask first before helping others. They don't tell you wear your mask and sit tightly. They tell you wear your mask and then help others. Right? So you need to be a superhero. You need to be equipped to be a superhero. And that is the same principle that applies as well. If we are not, I mean, imagine a situation like, for example, just before this call, okay, if I would have had a fight with someone, or if I would have had a bad day in the office, or if I would have had a fight with my wife, you think I will be oozing out the same passionate energy that I'm oozing out right now and enjoying this conversation? No, I would be like, oh my God, I just have to get through this somehow. So I am not fully myself, right? But I need to be fully myself. And that's why, some of my clients will tell you there have been moments where I've actually canceled their sessions like 15 minutes before the session. And I have no shame in accepting it. Some people have even told me on my face, oh, this is very unprofessional. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Because if I am not feeling like, giving knowledge and taking back knowledge from you, because coaching is not just about teaching, it's also a lot to take back from you. But if my mind is not stable in doing that, I'm not doing justice to you or to me. So there have been some clients who've actually told me this on my face, that you're very unprofessional because you canceled it then. And I'm like, I'm sorry about it, but I just wanted to do justice to you and to me. Because if you just want me to take a session, I will do it. There's no problem. But I won't be myself in that session. So it's a very significant portion of your own life that you are living, because we're interacting with so many people in the world. And we are ultimately, an energy ball, nothing else.
Yeah.
The energy that we ooze out is what the world absorbs. And sometimes we absorb back other people's energies, most of the times. Right? So I would rather ooze out positivity rather than negativity from myself. And that is something that we teach in logotherapy to people as well. And these are all things that I actually incorporate in my practice, in my coaching program with my clients as well. And they learn these tricks and trades of how to go about doing it, etc.
I love the idea of when you were talking about going into the coffin and realizing that you are a very tiny part of this world. I'm amazed how spiritual it is, because basically it's working on your own ego, letting you know that
Yes,
you are a tiniest bit, very tiny part of this world, and world
absolutely.
doesn't revolve around you. The world
No,
revolves
it
around the
doesn't.
sun, and there are so
Yes,
much bigger entities than you in the world. The,
absolutely. Absolutely. We take this whole thing to ourselves. We should learn the idea of letting go. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's not the end of the world. I tell all my clients as well, you just need to let go sometimes. And let go and just be there where you are. That's what Frankl did when he was in the concentration camps. He just was there. If you read the book, he's described the most miserable, inhuman, imaginable conditions that he lived through. He slept over dead bodies. He slept over people whose bodies were mutilated. He was asked to walk over people's hands and legs. He was given things to eat which no human would generally even imagine. I mean, just reading that sends shockwaves. I get goosebumps even now when I'm talking about it. And if you read, but if you apply the principle of being there and telling the universe that, okay, now that I'm here, what do I do? What do I do as a human to be able to safeguard my morality and yet at the same time survive? And do something that is going to help help mankind, humanity, or my friends or my colleagues or whoever. I mean, he was able to inspire so many people in the concentration camps who successfully managed to survive and live through. And they all acknowledge his contributions to them, his practices, his coaching, his encouragements, his motivations. And if you have that clear objective and the clear reasoning of saying, okay, why I want to survive this whole thing. I want to survive the whole thing, yes, for my own self, but at the same time, for the goals I have set in my life, for the meanings I have in my life. One of the reasons why he survived those 2.5 years was because, he and his wife were taken into prison together, and his wife was expecting. And he spent the next 2.5 years just thinking about the possibility of meeting his wife and his child once he comes out of the concentration camp. It's a different story that they were sent in the gas chambers. When she was sent in the gas chamber the very first week, because she was of no use at that time in the war. So unfortunately, she didn't survive. But he didn't know this. He didn't know this. So every day he would derive energy from the fact that he wanted to go and meet his child and his wife. And that became his purpose. That became his moment. And that became his momentary meaning. And every single day he would remind himself of that. and derive energy and survive through that. And the idea that he was now there in the concentration camp. So what do I do to survive there? You don't start blaming the past. You don't start blaming. He had an opportunity. Frankl had an opportunity to leave everything and go to the US. But he decided to stay back in Germany because his parents were not able to move as well. So he stayed in Germany. He left his US opportunity and he decided to stay in Germany. If he wanted, he could have cribbed about it. I was having an opportunity. I should have taken it. He could have sat down, sobbed, cried, done whatever he wanted to do. But that was of no value because that was the past. That was a choice he made. So he stuck to his choice and he said, I made that choice to stay with my parents and I don't want to cry over it. Good or bad, right or wrong, is all choices we've made. So we should stand by it. Why do we blame somebody else? I was reading this very interesting post yesterday. The Wimbledon finals took place, right? And Djokovic lost to this 21-year-old kid. And in his speech, Djokovic actually, said so many great things about this young boy. Not even for once he said, oh, I was tired, or I was not doing well, or I had this injury, or I was affected by this, or the ball was bad, or the pitch was bad, or the court was bad, or the situation was bad, or the audience was bad. There are lots of people who can give excuses. He did not do that. What he said was he praised the young boy and he said he played exceptionally well than me and he deserves the trophy more than anyone else right now. Right? And that shows how Djokovic decided to live in the moment, express gratitude for whatever he has achieved, right? Rather than standing there and walking off the field, in a grumpy face and saying, oh, I lost. It's not what he did. That shows the sign of a matured human being. I'm not talking about a sportsman. I'm not talking about a leader. I'm not talking about somebody who inspires millions of people. I'm just as a matured human being, where he acknowledges what was his thing that day, and he said, today this guy was so much superior to me, and I have so much to learn from him. Right? Imagine, and that is what it needs to be. Your momentary meaning, your meaning of that moment, what that moment taught you, is something that defines you as a human being, and that is something you should always be open for whenever you are going through anything in your life.
That already answers my next question. When you talked about
I'm sure it does, yeah.
You talked about Viktor Frankl, you talked about two of your clients where they have realized that they had to take responsibility of their life, and they took, and that's why that's how they found the meaning of their life. So my questions was that how can embracing responsibility be empowering? And these examples show that when you embrace responsibility, you empower yourself automatically.
You do that. I will also give you another very nice example. A few years ago, I went to one of these labor camps in the Middle East, where a lot of people who come to work here from across the world, they come and they stay in these labor camps. And I thought that, it would be a very dark place. It would be a place where people would basically be crying and sobbing, and it would be a very dull place to go to. To my surprise, when I actually went there, everybody was so happy. They were singing, they were dancing, they had a small courtyard, they were cooking together, and somebody was reading a book, somebody was watching something, people were sitting and watching movies, they were singing. There was this whole atmosphere of joy. And I started talking to a few people, and I started bringing up the ideas of, why are you so joyful in this situation where you are like 12 people staying in one room, and where, you really don't have the best of the facilities to survive. And of course, you don't make so much money that, the life is so luxurious or anything of that sort. And two things really touched me at that moment. There was this one fellow who came to me, and when I asked him that, why are you here? What is your purpose of being here? And he removed his wallet and he showed me a picture of his two daughters. And he said, my two daughters are the only children in my village in my village, and he's from India, and he said, in my village, who go to an English medium school. And every time they learn something new, they send me a voice note, or they tell me this on a video. And I feel proud that I never learned English in my life. My wife doesn't speak English, but my daughters are learning. And he said that if I have my way, I would want every child in my village to go to an English medium school. But for the moment, he said, these two girls, every morning when they call me, when they do a video call and they tell me something in English, that is my purpose. Now, I was speechless. I was like, what do I tell this man? How do I tell him he's living in one of the most inhuman conditions, miserable conditions? But no, for him, that is okay. That suffering is enough because he knows his purpose of life. He knows the meaning of his life. There was similarly in the same camp, there was a guy from the Philippines. And I asked him, I said, why are you here? And he said, he showed me a picture of his house. So he comes from southern Philippines where, cyclones and typhoons are very common. And he said, because of my work, because of what I make here, I've been able to build a permanent house in my village. And this house is where my parents stay now. There was a cyclone coming and, they would have to rebuild the house. They were living in those kacha homes for that matter. But he's saying now, what gives me joy is that my parents don't have to leave the house during cyclones. And more so, whenever the cyclone is coming, the entire village kind of gathers in their home. So he's like, this is my purpose in life. I want to just give my parents that facility of not rebuilding their homes every 6 months. Now, when you hear such stories of responsibility, of courage, of ownership, right? You suddenly feel so helpless and so, tiny in front of this whole world. And you're like, what are we fighting over, And then there are people who are just trying to do these little things for themselves. And that's why, when Mother Teresa won the Nobel Peace Prize, Mother was asked a very interesting question by a journalist, that what is the formula for world peace? And she says, it was very beautiful, and it kind of makes me emotional as well at times, but it is one of my favorite quotes that Mother said. And she said, just go home and take care of your family. All your life's problems will be solved. Where do the problems start? Oh, he has a bigger car than me. He has more money than me. His house is bigger than mine. His children are going to Harvard, mine are not. His wife is more prettier than mine. All the problem starts from there, right? Just go home, take care of yourself and your family. Everything, the world will be at peace. Unfortunately, the universe gave us that in practicality during COVID. What was told to us in COVID? Stay at home. Just take care of your loved ones. Don't go out. 2020 was the only year where 2020 was the only year when probably countries which had never collaborated with each other collaborated. 2020 was the only year when people spent quality time with their family. And people stopped comparing their lives with others because everybody was going through the same life. Everybody had the same risk. And, I remember that time I used to tell my clients also, whatever Mother had said at that time has come true. Because the universe is telling us this, that just sit at home, take care of yourself. Don't worry about others. And this is exactly what is the idea of life itself, Just take care of yourself. Just focus on your own self. Start, like they say, charity begins at home. Start with your own self. Stop worrying about others. In today's day and age where social media is playing such a havoc for everyone, we are actually not living a life for ourselves and our families. We are living a life for someone else to see. I want to post a beautiful photograph from where I'm traveling. Why? I want the whole world to see. It's great. I'm not saying you should not. But don't do it. Don't get obsessed with it. That's not your life. That's not your life. The only life you have is with you and your family. When something goes wrong, God forbid, it's only your family that will stand by you. Nobody will come to, none of these social media guys will come. I remember I was coaching an actor from India, from Mumbai, and he was super obsessed with this Instagram likes and reels and all of that stuff. It was driving him crazy. He was literally going mad because of all this stuff. And I told him one day that just post, an SOS message, okay, on your Instagram and see what happens. And he actually did that. Other than his family, nobody called. Everybody was posting back messages on the post itself. Oh, are you fine? Are you okay? Do you need anything? If a person is in trouble and he's asking for help, you're responding on social media. Is he going to be sitting on social media and reading your responses? You're supposed to call him, be there for him. It was only his family and a few select friends who actually called him or reached out to him for help. Nobody else. And that's when he realized the ultimate thing. And he said, all of this is rubbish. You may have millions and millions and millions of followers, but the guys who stand next to you sometimes are practically zero. So, this whole trend that is coming up of meta stress as we are dealing with in the world of psychology, stress that is caused because of this metadata as we call it, it's driving people nuts. It's driving people crazy. We need to be very, very careful with that. And I'm happy that most of my clients recognize and understand this thing, and they kind of acknowledge this, that it is helping them. Logotherapy is helping them to come out of it, so to say.
Yeah, beautiful. So we have talked. I'm just actually very much inspired by listening to the stories in labor camp, and the person from labor camp and the person from Philippines. They have found like they are doing what they should do, basically taking
Yeah.
their responsibility and embracing their
Yes.
responsibility. And
Yes.
I hope like the people who will be doing this course, they also come into this realization. So my next
Absolutely.
question is about the same. Uh, can you like we are doing this 4 week course on logotherapy, and like can you walk us through what a participant might experience week by week? Or you have already talked about logotherapy and three main
Yes.
principles, but what kind of exercises or insights can they expect out of this?
So the good part about the course that we have designed is that it will of course talk about the basic principles of logotherapy. We'll obviously talk a lot more in detail, but a lot of it will need to come from the experiences of the participants themselves. What I want to tell people is who have already enrolled for the course or who are planning to enroll for the course is that come prepared with a mindset of sharing, because only when you share you're ready to receive more. Right? As they say, giving is accepting more. Only when you give you will be able to accept more. So don't come, if you're coming to this course with this idea that I'm just going to make you sit down with a pen and paper and just keep lecturing. That's not going to happen. There's a lot of interactivity that's going to take place. There will be exercises that we will be doing together, where I expect all of us to share our life experiences. Ultimately, there's no bigger teacher than life experiences, right? And the idea here is to learn. I have given you in the last 40 minutes or so, that 45 minutes that we've spoken, I've given you so many life experiences of people that I have learned in my coaching journey. And similarly, I share a lot of my own life experiences with people and how I was able to implement these strategies of logotherapy in my own way to help my own life. So the idea here is we will learn the concepts of logotherapy. Yes, we will go through the basic stages of the foundation and start logotherapy in itself, but more so, it's more life experiences. It's not a course about logotherapy. It's a course about meaning of life. It's a course about how you are experiencing life of discovering your meanings, or what are your momentary meanings that you are struggling with, which we can probably help you find some answers, which you would probably find a way to reach out. So we are over 4 weeks going to cover a lot of topics from logotherapy. The whole idea is logotherapy in action, because ultimately learning concepts is not the idea, implementing them is the idea. So there will be basic steps and practices that I will guide you through, which if you implement it in your week, once you learn them, you will be able to see a difference in your own self. You will be able to see how they are positively impacting your life. And after this 4 weeks, of course, I kind of hope that you will get inspired and motivated enough to continue your quest for the meaning and finding purpose, whether it's through the books on logotherapy or whether it's other books which are inspired by logotherapy or which have similar concepts. But the exploration journey should not stop. It's something that should keep moving, and be prepared to interact, be prepared to learn. We're not going to judge anybody. Logotherapy is not about judging people. It's not about, because in logotherapy we also believe that there is no concept of right or wrong. Okay, what you are experiencing is from your perspective, is from your experiences, and your vision is right. What I'm experiencing is through my lens, right, as well. It's very simple. Like if I show you a photograph and I tell you to define the photograph or explain what's in the photograph, your definition of that photograph is different from mine. Doesn't mean that you are wrong or I am wrong, or the photograph is wrong. No, it's just the way you look at it, right? So there's no concept of right or wrong. It's everybody is right in their own perspective. It all depends upon where we are in that journey or the quest of finding a meaning and purpose, and that's what we will discover together. So more than me planning to give you stuff, I'm more excited about learning back from you guys and taking a lot of life experiences from all of you so that I can become a better human being and then inspire other people to do the same.
Yeah. And it's magical how you're answering the questions which are going to come up. Like you talked about perspective in life, and you have already given a lot of examples from your clients and from the people you have met, from your life also. So our sixth question is already answered. So we are left with only one
Perfect.
question, which is like for someone who is listening right now and who is intrigued but unsure if this course is for them. What would you say to help them decide if it is a right fit for them or not?
So, like I mentioned, it's not a course about just learning something, right? It's a course about implementing something. So, if you just want to learn something on logotherapy, I mean, there are dozens of videos you can watch and you can absorb whatever you want. If you really want to just go through something, or you want to get introduced to the concepts of logotherapy, you could listen to an audiobook of Man's Search for Meaning, or just read Man's Search for Meaning if you want to. But it's not just about knowing the concept. It's about how do you implement the concepts in your life. And that is what we are going to be doing in this course. All my coaching programs, all my coaching sessions, my teaching sessions are not about telling you the concept. It's not technical. Okay, I may not even be covering technicalities, so to say. There are lots and lots of scientific words that are part of Man's Search for Meaning. I will not even be raising them because I don't want this to look like a course in psychology. It's something that is going to help you on a daily basis to improve your life. And if you really want to do that, and if you're looking for that improvement in your life, then this is the course you should be doing, because it's helped me, it's helped a lot of my clients, and I'm sure it's going to help you guys as well if you decide to come on board and experience it.
That brings to us to the end of this conversation, and I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. The energy you were asking about, like when we have positive energy, we share that energy with others, and that's how it propagates to other people. I have gotten that energy from you right now, and that I can feel that in my body. And I hope that this conversation, when other people listen to it, they also get the similar energy, and they are able to decide to register for this course, and then they find the meaning in their own life.
I hope
Thanks a
so
lot,
too.
Nitin,
I
for
had
this
a
conversation.
I had a
Yeah.
great time as well. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking to you and inspiring people. So it's fantastic. I'm really excited about this course, and I look forward to meeting up with everybody soon. Thank you again for
Sure.
this opportunity.
Sure, thank you. And the people who are listening to this conversation right now, they want to check the links. They can go to the links description in the YouTube video description, and links will be there to register to the course. And you can also check the Living Consciously website where other courses are there. And yeah, I hope you have a good time listening to this course. Thank you. Thank you, Nitin. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Soul-Versations with Living Consciously. For more, go to www.livingconsciously.com or check our Instagram at Living Consciously.